And we should be live. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, we should be live. Welcome back to my live streams. As you may have noticed, and you should have noticed this last time, that we're not doing it on, how do you call it, Tom Sequitur's channel, but we're going to do it on my channel. And today we're going to try and talk about, sorry for the very bad start, going to try to talk about It Is Okay to Be White. Welcome, Rin, by the way. Nice to have you with us.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hey, sweetie.
Yeah, hello.
I'm going to turn off my speakers as suggested. It should be better like that. I hope it is. I'm sorry for that. And I haven't done a hangout for a few weeks, so yeah, my bad. Is this better, Davey?
Yeah, we kind of noticed you were missing in action there, Modway.
Well, I had family over and work and blah 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 blah, all sorts of excuses.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, one question. Can you guys hear me good like that?
No.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
I can hear you. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Well.
Then I don't have to enable my microphone every time.
Ah, that's good.
Perfect. Yeah.
Well, first off,
Now,
Davey.
before you say anything, Modway, you might want to speak up just a little, but otherwise, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not Modwayne.
Just so we...
That's Sangetal, because she has her own microphone, but it's turned off. But we sit next to each other, so then when she talks, it comes over my microphone.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, we can hear her fine. She just might need to speak up just a little when she talks.
Okay.
I will.
Anyway,
this stream is going to end right now. It's not okay to be white, everyone, but it is okay to be Portuguese.
Fuck you.
You know, guys, I love how you have such a great love for your country. You know, it's nice learning so much about Portugal from you because it's funny to talk about laws in Portugal and how things work there. Like when you talk about Portugal, there are times you're like, man, I want to visit Portugal.
Yes, please visit. We have it's beautiful, but it's the shittiest country in the world. No one wants to live here. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why you just visit.
Exactly.
Oh, come on. It couldn't be that bad. Come on now.
Oh, it's paradise, man.
The thing is, I have no problem with you saying it's okay to be Portuguese. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem with you saying it's not okay to be white. You fucking racist.
Well, you know what, Modwayne? Why don't you tell the... Why don't you go ahead and tell the story about your coworker? Why don't you go ahead and tell that story about your coworker that you told us way back when we were first shooting the breeze?
But I am a Celt, so...
Yeah, Celts are white.
No, they're green.
They're green, indeed. Woads. No, the thing is, and this is something that I talked about with a colleague at work, because when I started talking about it's okay to be white, her first reaction was, yeah, but that's being racist. And she wasn't even negative towards me. It was more like a statement. No, but that's being racist. And she's not a stupid person. I mean, I'm a sociotherapist. She's a sociotherapist. We are educated people. So I started talking to her like, okay, so we work with people with autism. Is it okay to be an autist? To have autism? Well, yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's difficult. You have to learn to live with it. But yeah, it's okay. It's not wrong with that. Is it okay to be Asian? Yeah, sure, it's okay to be Asian. Why wouldn't it be okay to be Asian? Is it okay to be black? Yeah, sure, it's okay to be black. Why wouldn't it okay to be black? So why isn't it okay to be white? And she was like, shit. Yeah, the thing is that especially in the Western world, we are so being told that being white is a negative thing. But being something in itself isn't positive or negative. There is no reason to say, yeah, but being white is negative. If being black is okay, then being white is okay too.
Well, but that's just it. That's just the thing about it, Modwayne, is everybody's been trained to just have that immediate knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
It's okay to be white. Well, that's racist. And it's like, well, fucking why? I was kind of born this way, as like, you know.
To be honest, you know, I remember when I was still in Poland and still in high school, no one really said that it's not okay to be proud to be white, but somehow everyone knew it's racist thing. And I don't know, I cannot even point out why we thought that. It was obvious to us. I'm not saying it's true. And I don't know why people wouldn't look. They would teach us in English, for example, which words you don't use to call a black person because it's offensive, but they would not teach us that certain things to call a white person are also offensive to a white person then. And it's just like everyone knew it's not okay to be proud to be white because it would be associated with Ku Klux Klan and being racist. It just was there.
Well, the way I figure it, I think that their minds are stuck about like 50 years ago, where, you know, slavery, segregation. Well, I think slavery was over 50 years ago, but it's kind of like where Black people had it really hard, where there's the wonderful white water fountain, the terrible Black water fountain, you know, or the Black kids going, oh, the white doll is pretty and gorgeous, but the Black doll is ugly and gross. You know, they do that to like kids. It is kind of like the idea is kind of a lot like, you know, it's kind of a lot like it's okay to be white, where, you know.
But you're pointing out a few things that have been debunked so many times. I mean, these are old sociology tests where white children tend to pick white children and Black children tend to pick. Sorry, not children. Black children tend to pick Black dolls and white children tend to pick white dolls. But somehow, whenever a white kid picked a Black doll, it's because she recognized how she's oppressing Black people. And whenever a Black girl picked a white doll, it's because she was negative about her own racial or ethnical differences. We've been being fed a narrative for the longest time. And don't forget that in America, being white wasn't being of the same skin color as Donald Trump. Being white was being a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Irish people weren't considered white because they were Catholic. Italian people weren't considered white because they were called Hispanics. Because they were Catholics.
Wait, Modwayne, I would like to just say this to you. When it comes to what you said right there, how many Americans even know that, though? I mean, there is a narrative. Wait. Let me just say this. There is a narrative we have in school. And the narrative that we have in school is that, I mean, I know what you're saying because I know the things, you know, because I talk to you all the time and I've heard of white slavery. But when I was in school, we learned that, you know, Black people were slaves, and many people still think that only Black people were slaves, and still many people have no idea that, you know, white people were slaves. And, you know, like many people just believe that, you know, black people were free in Africa, and that white people just captured, you know, Black people and forced them on slave ships. You know, there is something that we've been taught, or I mean, I learned something new that's, you know, from you, like just now, you know, that, you know, there were Black people that picked a Black doll. I didn't know that. I thought that all the Black people from about, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, all picked the white doll. But there are things that we learn in school, and many adults my age grew up thinking, and people are kind of like, why are millennials like that? But there is something that we learn in our education system.
Well, and the funniest part is everybody goes on and on about slavery, but they only talk about when it happened for that brief time in the United States. And it's like, you guys do realize that all throughout history, if there was a war, guaranteed the losers became slaves or something in that neighborhood.
Shit, Portugal initiated the transatlantic slave trade.
Hey, what?
Portugal began the transatlantic slave trade. We would buy the Portuguese sailors or Portuguese, etc., would buy the slaves from the Arabs and from a few good allied kingdoms of African kingdoms in West Africa, and then they'd ship them off to Brazil, and then later to North America. So Portugal began all that shit. But you don't see any Portuguese being ashamed of that, because we know that it happened fucking 500 years ago, and it was just everyone did it.
Well, that's a whole part of our history, is that at some point we have to learn a lesson and go, yeah, you know what, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Let's change that and not do that anymore.
Yeah, also, what goes on is that Americans know American history, and not very well. Americans don't know history all around the world. I don't think many Americans would score well with Chinese history or Japanese history.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, Rin, but I'm really disagreeing with you there. Americans don't even know American history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually very rare to find any Americans that actually know American history, unless there's somebody like me who's just nerdy enough to look into certain shit. It's like, well, I kind of want to know more about this. How about well, back when the History Channel was the History Channel, I got into the documentaries and things. Well, no, it wasn't aliens back then. It was. And now back to the World War II channel.
Yeah, because it used to be good. But if in all fairness, this is something that's been going on since the early 20th century. Yeah, so the beginning 1900, the early period. The Frankfurt School of Thought, and I know people think it's tinfoil hat time right now, but I'm going to go ahead with this anyway. The Frankfurt School of Thought was implemented in Germany to promote the Karl Marx socialistic ideas. And in America...
Modwayne, just to give you some backup, you do know that Jordan Peterson talks extensively on the Frankfurt School.
True that, but that's because he too recognizes a lot of these issues. And I have to admit that I didn't learn it from him. I recognize a lot of this stuff before I ever heard of him. But I'm glad to see someone else educated is opening up about it. But if we look at America, the Frankfurt School of Thought, which started a little bit later, but a lot of socialists were already active in America. We see them especially amongst the Jewish rich in America. And this is not about Jewish, non-Jewish, but unfortunately, this is something you see a lot about the Jewish rich. This is something we saw a lot about the Hollywood-centered Jewish industry of making movies. They made movies which were considered by the American government to be undermining the social well-being of America because they were too sexual and too aggressive. So they forced the American movie industry to make up a code of conduct, or the American government would make up a code of conduct. In 1930, basically they created a code of conduct in which, for example, they said, okay, there would be no real swearing, there would be no there would be no white slavery, because that would create a negative image for the white people, especially the Irish at the time, because a lot of them were slaves. There will be no adultery, shit like that. So stuff like that got, how do you call it?
Shit canned.
Well, it got censored out of what we see. But what we kept seeing was the slavery of the black people.
Wait a minute, Madaway, could you explain? Can you go into a little bit more detail on why they removed, at least from the history books, the slavery of the Irish?
Because it doesn't fit the narrative. It's not just the Irish, by the way. I mean, yes, okay, the Irish were slaves because they were brought to America by the English, and they were actually the first chattel slaves, and not the black. But there were other, what we now considered white people that were slaves too. The Polish, the German, some Finnish people, some Russian people. If they could
Modwayne, Chinese people were practically slaves too at one point.
Everyone was slave, because if you couldn't afford by yourself to build your life in America, you had to go in as an indentured serf. And after 7 years, you would have your freedom. Because you would come to America and you would pay for your trip and your stay with labor for 7 years. And after those 7 years, you would be a free man.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't survive those 7 years. You know why? Because, hey, wait a second. If you die, I don't have to buy you your freedom at the end of the story. So why would I care about you? Funny thing, chattel slavery is the one thing that saved both the Irish and the black community, or the black slaves in America. Why? Because chattel slavery was owned. Yeah, but you don't care about your ownership. Okay. Any one of you who has... Sorry. No, let me finish this point. Magnus, let me finish this point. Let me finish this point, please. Any one of you who owns something that is expensive, or has ever borrowed something that is expensive for a prolonged time, will know that what you own and is expensive, you will be far more careful with than what you borrowed and is expensive. And this is true for slaves too. If you own a slave, you're going to be more careful with it than if you're borrowing the slave.
Actually, wait a minute. I disagree with you there, because if I borrowed something from a friend, I would value that friendship, and I wouldn't want to lose that friend. So I would be really careful with being careful from what I borrow with a friend, because tomorrow means I'll have to give it back.
And Modwayne, what I was going to say earlier was an indentured servant was just somebody working for you to buy their freedom. An actual owned slave, that was an investment on your part. You invested your money in it, so of course you're going to take better care of it than somebody that says, "You want to work for me to buy your freedom? Okay, well I didn't spend any money on you, so fuck it, whatever."
Yeah. So indentured serfs died far more often than cattle slaves. And the idea that only black people were chattel slaves, whatever, is not true, because the Irish were chattel slaves too. But we haven't seen any story about that in the last, almost 100 years, because Hollywood was forbidden to make those stories.
Okay, well, how would people get this information then?
Look it up. There are history books. It's the worst part is that all of this stuff is still out there. You can look it up on the internet, but go to a library. Seriously, go to a library.
Repository for knowledge. What is it called?
The internet?
No, the actual physical, with the actual original Declaration of Independence is guarded, is displayed.
Oh, you're talking about in Washington? Shit, I'm trying to remember the name. I went there in the 8th grade. You think I'd remember the name of the fucking place?
Isn't it the Smithsonian?
No, it's a museum.
Smith.
I
think it's
the Library of Congress or something. The National Congress or National Library of Congress. It has that name. I just can't remember it. I'm shit at names. Like I said, I'm autistically awkward at names. I can't remember names.
I don't. Like I said, Carlos, I've actually been to the fucking place, and I can't even remember the name right off the top of my head.
But go to any library.
Access it. Yeah, you can access it online. There is actual registers of slaves. They have them there, and you can see that they was there. There was the Irish, the first actual chattel slave owner, that Angolan bloke or Mozambican, Angolan from Portuguese colony, who was a chattel slave. Then he got his freedom, and then he bought actual chattel. He won that court case.
Yeah. That's
Anthony Johnson.
Oh, that wasn't. I think in Virginia. I can't remember that.
I can't remember the state, but I know where he
he was freed by the English because the English fought the Portuguese. He was on board one of their ships. They brought him to their colony. He was allowed to work as a slave for 7 years because that's how it worked back in the days. Mm-hmm. And after those 7 years, he would be a free man, and a lot of free men would then buy indentured serfs, as did he. But after 7 years, when it was time for him to say, okay, you're free now, he basically said, no, they're not free, because these are not indentured servitudes. These are war victims, just like the Irish. Yeah, but England wasn't at war with them. Yeah, but my people were.
Well, the English were never at war with Portugal. They were pirating Portuguese.
No. But the English used the war victim attitude to claim to the Irish, why the Irish were not indentured serfs, but just outright slaves, because they were war captives. And,
oh my God, we're live again.
Smirkus!
Hey, Smirkus!
I was gonna write it. Hey, it's Smirkus, man.
What's up?
But Texas hard cocks and airplanes.
The thing is,
Hello.
The thing is, if we look at slavery in the simplest of forms, every culture in the world was part of slavery. In all fairness, the few cultures that were the latest were the Americans and the Latin Americans. And why were they the latest? Because they were the latest cultures to be started. Because before 1600, there were no American white cultures.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I just think that what's going on is that very few people, okay, I'll agree, very few Americans know American history, and very few Americans know world history. And I mean, our education is corrupt, I think, because it never brings up that white people were slaves. And I only learned white people were slaves through watching YouTube and, through YouTubers and whatnot. I've only learned, I feel like I've learned far more on YouTube than I ever did in school. I learned on YouTube that Black people sold Black people into slaves, and Black people were slaves in Africa, and they were sold. I didn't know that in school. And so there's something wrong with our education system, or how we just learn about the Holocaust every single year ad nauseum. Every single year we're reinforced that the Holocaust is bad, which it indeed is. And we learned that Hitler killed 6 million Jews, but all the other people seem to be erased. I never knew about other people in the Holocaust until 25.
Well, see, Ren, that's the funny part is, if I remember right, the slave trade was what saved a lot of people's asses in Africa, because if I remember right, it was intertribal warfare, and it's the losers, I don't think they took POWs. I think they'd just kill them, and I think the slave traders are like, we'll take them off your hands. And it's okay, fine, you'll pay us something for them. All right, we won't kill them. We'll let you have them.
Weren't they slaves or killed? One of the two?
Yeah, one of the two.
The history, the modern history books, not in for example, in Portugal. Jesus, I sometimes hate bringing up Portugal again. It's because we don't erase our history. That's the only reason, honestly. We know that we still study the Barbary, the slave trade with the northern Tunisia, Algerians, part of Moroccans would raid Europe, Italy, Spain, France, and Portugal.
All the way up
Greece.
to the Netherlands.
And all the way to another, exactly, and bring back the slaves, white slaves, to the North Africa, and then onward to all of the Muslim world, the Islamic world. So we know that, we study that here. My children study that, and we don't run away from it. We acknowledge it. Shit, it happened, and it was the West that stopped it. It was the British. Originally, the Protestant, Anglo-Saxon Protestants, who originally stopped the slave trade of the European whites, etc. The Europeans, saying whites is superfluous and shit, because there's no such thing as a European white. I'm totally different from a Finn or a Dutch or a Holland or a Netherlands person, or a German or a Pole or a Russian. I'm totally different from them. I am more closely related, me personally, from where I come from, to the Irish than I am to the Germans, for example. So I hate
don't know
that
if
term.
we. I definitely know we didn't learn about white slavery in school, but I'm not sure if we actually learned about the blacks trading the blacks.
No, we didn't.
I think the first time I ever heard about that was when I watched the Amistad.
In the Netherlands, we didn't learn. I mean, in the Netherlands, we were taught that, for example, the Dutch would be in South Africa, that we went there and that we got slaves. It wasn't specified on how we got slaves. The fact that we didn't go out to raid countrysides, but that we basically bought slaves, was not mentioned.
Our history books actually mention it.
Yeah,
Yes, our history book said yes. We tried. Portuguese traders would buy the slaves from the kingdom of Benin, for example, who Portugal converted to Christianity, and the kingdom of Guinea, which is now Guinea-Conakry, who also we bought slaves from them, and then we'd sell them in the Americas. We were unabashedly taught that in our schools.
To be honest,
Well, and the funniest.
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead, mate.
Well, no, I was going to say, well, and if you look at it, I mean, for fuck's sakes, they say, the people these people of color can't be racist. Rwandan genocide, anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Clear.
And to be honest, when I
Indeed,
look at,
yes.
when I look at school in Poland, now, to be honest, I skipped a lot of times in high school, so I'm not going to risk that we didn't have it mentioned in Poland. However, the narrative is, and I definitely remember few professors having portrayed like that, bad white men enslaved the poor black people. And I'm not saying that all professors would say the same. However, that was the general idea I had leaving high school. And that the school system is also designed that you have a lot of things to do, so you're less likely to look for information yourself because you're trying to just keep up.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed, Alicia. We learn what the state wants us to learn. It seems that you're right on that, Alicia, and that's scary, to be honest, because that means that reality can be changed, or rather, reality is being changed based on what I want you to know.
That is very Orwellian. Like that. Okay, the world we live in right now just seems like an Orwellian nightmare come to life. I feel like I live in, animal form with a little bits of 1984.
Yeah, but that's it. Though 1984 was mostly based on socialism, communism, but the whole idea of if you want to destroy a society, there are a few things you need to make sure of. One, they have to doubt everything they stand for. They have to be unable to back themselves up with facts. So basically, you pull away the rug under them on any topic. Then you make sure that they do not trust in their own mental capabilities, and you will tell them that their defenders are bad. Now, on average, a cultural defense is based on its men. Men are bad. This is how you destroy a culture. This is how you destroy a society. This is what socialism has been trying to do in America for the longest time.
Wait a minute, Madeline, why would people want to destroy their own country? Mainly, the reason why wait. The reason why I ask why would anybody destroy their own country is because other countries go to war with each other. And if you destroy your own country, it would make it easier for another country to invade you. Because you leave your own people defenseless.
Ren, the simple answer is because people are fucking stupid.
The blind leading the blind.
I'm developing a hypothesis on that, but it bloody sounds so conspiratorial, like Jesus.
Well, it's quite simple. You had a few combative ideologies. Let's call it that. You had a few combative ideologies, and for one ideology to defeat the other one, you need to destroy the concept of it, the idea of it. If you want to destroy,
feel that there's an oligarchical powers that are trying to take control. That's it. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist because it sounds so much like it.
Well, Carlos, do you want me to kind of give an idea here of exactly what the problem is? I mean, you can practically see it in the culture at large. What happens is people who hate, like the Frankfurt School, like you were talking about, Modwayne, they get the idea that it's bad to live in a nice, prosperous society where people have comforts and shit. So they start a narrative, and they make like we'll use Islam as an example. They make it seem like, oh, the poor little people of Islam live in these shithole countries, and the United States is so mean to them. It's like, well, if their culture was an absolute bullshit, they wouldn't live in these third world shitholes. They would get off their ass and build a prosperous society. But their religion, we'll just call it Islam for right now, has decided that, it's better to be shitty to their people, and it's almost like communism. The only people who are actually rich in those fucking cultures are the people in charge. Much like Venezuela.
No, they are very extreme right-wing authoritarians. They are actually fascists. Islam
well, authoritarianism, be it left or right, is still a shitty concept.
Absolutely.
But,
I find it so ironic that they want to come to the West, and they say the West is racist. Okay, I wouldn't go to a country that would make me feel inferior. Why would I go there? Why do they come here?
Well, it's easy. It's easy. Their whole thing is to infiltrate a perfectly decent culture that's accepting and tolerant and blah, blah, fuckity blah, and then destroy it from the inside.
Which is true for
That's their modus operandi.
But this is also true for the concept of socialism and Marxism.
Yes.
Let me speak here for a little bit. I was just thinking about something I've read about neuro-linguistic programming, about the whole framing. That the strongest frame will always win. And I don't know. Suddenly this popped into my head while talking about culture wars.
But yeah, this is true. If I make you think a certain thing over and over and over and over again, then eventually that thing will be your go-to thought.
Yeah.
Well, I wish that goes back to what we were saying earlier, Maud Wayne, about how somehow it's okay to be white became such a racist statement. 4chan only did that. 4chan, like I said before, though, 4chan only did that, and it's because it's such an innocuous statement. But boy, did it get people's asses in a sling.
But that's because for years now, this is also what I meant when I talked about my colleague and myself. For years now, and I'm not talking tens, I'm talking about decades, we've been told over and over and over again that yes, being white is a negative thing. You have no right to be proud of being white. And therefore, you are not proud of white because that's your go-to response. You have been indoctrinated. We have all been indoctrinated to think in a certain way. We have broken our indoctrination. People like you and me, we're sitting here talking about this. But a lot of people have not broken their indoctrination because they are not confronted with it. It's not something that's high in their mind. So if for example, if I talk about my colleague, bring back the story I mentioned earlier about how she thought that it's okay to be white is basically a racist statement. At that point in time, her doctrine kicks in. Yeah, but it's bad to be white. And then we start talking about it. So she has to actually explore the concept in her head. And then she's realizing, wait a second, no, you're making a good point. It's weird that I consider this to be a racist statement. Most people don't even make that step. Most people have in their head, this is a racist statement, and then shut off. They don't engage. They don't think about why they think it's a racist statement.
Yeah, in this case, her frame was stronger than hers, and you took over her frame.
Well, in this case, wasn't that Mike's framework was stronger than hers. In this case, it's that my colleague was able to question her own framework.
Well, but you see, here's the thing, Maud Wayne. You actually had to start the line of questioning. That's the sad part.
But that's not true with me and my colleague. That's true with everyone in the Western world because we have been indoctrinated in our schools, in our media, to think in a certain way. Don't get me wrong. When I say it's okay to be white, I'm not saying it's bad to be black. That's bullshit. That's a narrative that people are pushing to prevent you from recognizing that you're being told that it's bad to be white.
Well, and the entire problem with the reason why we have assholes like Richard Spencer out in the world is because, you know, they innocently started that line of indoctrination breaking, just asking a question like you did. Why is it not okay to be white if it's okay to be this, that, and the third? And then you've got opportunist assholes like Richard Spencer taking that line of reasoning, shitting all over it, and turning it into a reversed indoctrination, I guess, if that's the best way to put it.
It's not reversed indoctrination.
To another indoctrination.
But it's going from one extreme to the other extreme.
Exactly.
Like I saw like a quick interview from like Richard Spencer, like somebody was interviewing Richard Spencer. It was a black guy, and Richard Spencer was a lot like, "You're not English." He'd tell the black guy, "You're not English. This is not your home. You don't belong here," and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I can somewhat understand the concept of that, but at the same time, I disagree with it because I don't care. I mean, you can be black and live in the Netherlands. I don't give a fuck. There are 3 rules that I feel everyone who lives in this country should abide by. You should obey all the laws. You should be able to speak the language, and you should be able to earn your own living. If those 3 laws, if those 3 rules you abide by, you're welcome here. I don't care, because then we can still be different in certain things, but the main concept is our Western society, and you're part of it, and I'm part of it. I'm more likely to stand back to back.
You bigot.
But it's true, though. I'm more likely to stand back to back.
I know, man. I'm joking with you.
You racist.
I know.
You racist.
I'm going to try to make this point anyway. Fuck it.
Yep.
I'm more able to stand
Go on,
back to back to defend our society with black colleagues of mine, but I'm not able to be standing back to back with people who support Antifa. Funny enough, most people supporting Antifa are not black; they're white.
Yeah,
it's not about skin culture. It's about culture. It's not about skin color. And if you indeed, as Smirkus said, if you have a certain concept in your head and you cannot let go of that concept, then in a way you're a danger. The same is true for me. If I have this idea of how white people are good, I'm not even saying better. If I'm just saying white people are good too, and there is physical evidence that this is not the case, and I'm unable to let go of my concept, then I'm a problem too. We have to be able to question our motives, our ideas, our stances.
You're putting words in my mouth, but I would agree with that.
But now look like
it is really.
Go ahead,
What? Where?
Anyway, what I'm saying is that, Madwayne, it is really rare for people to question their motives. People mostly live their lives doing the day-to-day thing. Nobody ever takes the time out to think, why do I think this? Why do I think that? I mean, we would live in a better world if people did question, why do I think a certain thing? But people thoughts don't really lead it that way. People are used to just,
Well, yeah,
let's Samyatal respond as well, because she wanted to say something too.
You know, there's a lot of things said last few minutes that I want to point one thing, and I'm sure for you guys, I probably won't pointing out anything else. But lately, I'm really looking at my high school, and the reason for that is that I'm discovering more and more the indoctrination, how it was done. So basically, what Urin said, and some of you, sorry, I'm crap with names. Look, I was at school when most of my professors would make me feel stupid if I questioned something. And I wasn't the kind of a 16-year-old who would say, yeah, whatever. I tried to think about stuff, and I was a lot of time wrong, and sometimes I was right. But if it didn't follow a narrative, they would make me feel stupid. They would make a comment. They would laugh at me until the point that I kept my thoughts to myself. We had a discussion. I didn't participate because I actually thought there was a time in my life when I thought actually I'm stupid.
Well, the funniest part of all this is I'm probably one of those rare few exceptions. I always kind of examine now, why do I think X? And usually if I think about it long enough, it's like, well, I have at least a decent personal reason to think that. But I'm also of the bent that if somebody proves me wrong on a certain thought, I'll be like, what do you know? And I'll just accept it and go on. If it's proven to be wrong. Yeah. If they just tell me I'm wrong as an assertion, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but when
give me some proof. And
when you basically sorry, go on.
Well, no, I was going to say, see, the problem, Ren, is a lot of people are almost trained into just these this set of knee-jerk reactions that they don't even know why, they just do.
Yeah, but this is also what Smirkus said a moment ago.
What?
That we have certain frames in our head. Frameworkings in our head. We have certain concepts, and everything outside of that concept therefore must be wrong.
Yeah, and then we teach in school to doubt ourselves.
I kind of always, I don't really think about it like Magnus just said, but I've always been a thinker. It's like, why this and why that? What if? And see,
Smirkus, the funny thing is, it's like, well, okay, why don't I even just the stupidest things? It's like, well, why don't I trust somebody with a nose ring? not that I don't, but that as an example.
Mhm.
But why wouldn't I trust a person with a nose ring? And it's like, oh yeah, because 9 times out of 10 they're this, this, and this. And I'm also of the belief there are exceptions to every rule, but I've always said this: the exception usually makes the rule.
The thing is, though, that the rules are, well, they're forced upon us. And this is not a black and white thing. I mean, I see in the chat, for example, Davey and Carlos talking about how some black people are riding on the whole victim mentality bullshit. The identitarian politics that's going on. And I've had a discussion today with John about almost the same thing. The thing is that if we look, for example, in America, roughly 13% of America's population is black. Roughly 12% of Americans' black population believe in the victimhood status and the identitarian politic bullshit. It's a percentage of the total population that does, just like it's a percentage of the white population that does, like the Antifa bullshit is. But these are the ones that drive the narrative.
Yep.
Well, and that's the problem with the whole thing. Mostly the people who are that heavy into identity politics are as useless as a third butthole.
But these are our educators.
I was about to say, it's not that, I might think the ideas are bad, but they don't get challenged at all in schools. It's like if you dare to disagree, then you're just a Nazi, That's a very wrong thing.
Modwayne's young lady said it perfectly. If you ask questions, you're treated like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can. It's like I don't know how you can't possibly see that what I'm saying is right, even though it's just assertion after assertion with no proof.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not smart enough to ever actually felt that, or I just go, whatever. I just think like this, and challenge me if you want or not. I don't care.
But how many times have we? Maybe we've had this happen to ourselves, but at least we have seen this on YouTube. How many times have we not seen that once you start discussing with some of these people, you prove them wrong, they eventually go back to their baseline as well. It's not my job to educate you.
Yeah.
No, that's such a bullshit argument as well.
Yeah, but it's not an argument.
Yeah, no. Well, to me, it's not my job to educate you means flat out, I have run out of bullshit to try to convince you that you're wrong. You're standing your ground. And therefore, I have one last ditch effort to try to make you feel like an idiot, and duck out of trying to offer any actual proof for the bullshit that I'm spewing. That's what it boils down to.
Instead of simply just agree to disagree.
I actually had someone. Of course, nowadays I'm losing sometimes people who want to speak to me, and I actually had someone kicking me off Facebook and then re-inviting me to Facebook just to see if I changed my mind on certain thing. And when it turned I didn't, we had a still short conversation. And basically I said, look, here is the thing. I'm probably not right on everything. And maybe I can't express myself right when writing. But I'm really open to speak to you because I do want to understand your point of being and where you're coming from. And then I treated like a fool. I said, yeah, you think you have to understand me? I'm like, no, I don't have to, but it would be useful for civilization if people would understand each other. And those people indeed are like, you don't have to understand me. This is the truth. And you're an idiot. I'm like, okay. There is no arguing with these people.
There isn't, no, absolutely not. I never argue with them. I mock them because they can't understand.
Oh, and the funny part is like, because it's actually, one of the most triggering thing, Trump, and that I'm so pro-Trump. I'm not, but I defend him on some things. And then I'm like, every time I'm actually making fun of Trump, which I have done. Every time I criticize Trump, I have done. That doesn't count to you because there are things that I think he's right on. It's like with those people, you have to be 100% like agreeing with him, with them on everything.
Well, and here's the question for everybody: how petty do you have to fucking be to shit on Trump for feeding koi and dumping the fish food out? And it turns out that he was following Shinzo Abe's lead in doing so.
Yeah,
it's like, are you asshole? I saw where somebody photoshopped a picture of Melania Trump when she was bending over writing on something. They photoshopped it to look like she had a thong hanging out of her ass crack of her pants.
Yeah, that was.
And then somebody else showed the real picture. She was wearing a full set of pants, and it's like, what? Why are you assholes having to fake shit just to try to make the Trumps look like a bunch of assholes? It's like,
it's called the Trump derangement syndrome.
This is the first time I heard about that, but it's
this is the first time.
Anyway, guys,
who the fuck cares?
Can I just say,
guys,
goodbye to you all. I just want to say goodbye to you. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Modwine, anytime, mate, I'll always be here. Magnus, hope you are fine, and we can talk some other time. Rin, love you. I can't say to Modwine's girlfriend that I love her because he might get jealous. And Smirkus, it's always... Yeah, it's Smirkus. I love you, man.
I hope to see you next week again.
I love you, man.
Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. See you guys.
I love you too, mate. No homo, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Much love, man. Much love. Bye-bye,
Sleep tight, Carlos.
Sleep well.
Yeah, good night.
So, Smirkus, that was the first time you'd heard about which one, the Melania Trump picture or the whole... Huh? The whole where he's fed the... Yeah, well, he was in Japan meeting with their Prime Minister Shinzo Abe.
Yeah,
and they're fucking feeding the koi fish, and they zoom in on Trump so that it doesn't show that Shinzo Abe dumped the rest of the food out of his tray first, and then you see Trump just turn his upside down, and it's like he was following Shinzo's lead, dude. What the fuck is wrong with you people?
Why the hell is this a problem? Yeah.
Well, they made it a problem because the tradition. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to do this. The tradition is that they go to the koi pond and then with a spoon throw in the food. And so they go. You can see the whole video. I don't have it ready right now, but you can see the whole video. And they go there, and Shinzo first throws in a spoon, and then Trump mimics his behavior, so he throws in a spoon as well. Mm-hmm. And they keep doing that a while, and they're talking a bit, and then Shinzo throws in the rest of it all at once, which is not a big deal, but you know what? Otherwise, it'll take too long. And Trump again mimics him. But what they did is they only captured the bit of Trump throwing in all the food in the koi pond, and then make it sound like that's unpolite or insulting, even though Trump was mimicking Shinzo. So he was doing as the Romans do in Rome, so to speak.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand, but like I don't see the fucking problem.
They were making out like Trump was had just performed some sort of a faux pas.
Yeah, like
by throwing in all the rest of the food at once.
Are you talking
he was doing something.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about the left-wing media?
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
I think it was CNN or MSNBC. I don't remember which.
What other petty shit can you come up with?
Well, that is true. And as John the Bermuse said, and exactly who gives a fuck about feeding the koi? I'm going to say the koi will care, but other than that, indeed, no one should care.
The horrible faux pas that Trump committed was he dumped all his food in there, and then the lead koi yelled "buffet," and they all went nuts and killed the fish. And, oh wait, no, that never happened. But
the thing is, they made it sound like it was a terrible faux pas Trump. But they zoomed in on a specific image of the complete video.
Oh, like the black lady with the
yes, and that's the same thing as the Melania Trump with her string. Yes. Melania Trump never signed anything in a string in the White House, but yet there's an image where she does. That image has been photoshopped. People have been proven to been faking this news. But then instead of saying, yeah, sorry, this is fake news, they attack the people proving them wrong.
Well, that's the worst part of all this.
I want to know. She has a nice ass.
Well, that's the worst part of all this is I don't understand why they have to keep trying to fake. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're trying to rely on that old adage that a lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth's still getting its boots on to go after it. But in the digital age, that's becoming it doesn't work that way anymore. The truth follows right after.
Yeah, Psycho basically said this in the chat as well. It's basically like back in the days when the burning of the areas, I forgot where it was, that the sister of a boy that got murdered basically shouted out, "Don't burn our shit," and then they edited out, "Take that shit to the suburbs."
Yeah.
Because
they edited out all the rest.
They edited out all the bits of making it sound bad, so that basically it sounded as if she was against the violence, though she wasn't against the violence. She was against the violence here. We need to violence there.
I also never understand that. It's like shit happened and you burn your own part of the city down. I mean, what the fuck?
Well, that's because they know if they take it to the suburbs.
All these Democrats after Trump won. Let's burn our city. Your city voted Democrat, dumbass.
Well, and the worst part is, if you stop and think about it, you know damn good and well they're not going to take that shit to the suburbs because that's where they're more likely to get shot.
True. Oh, yeah. Because once they start doing that, then they will get serious blowback on it. The worst part is, though, that and this is I think it was the Communist Manifesto. I can't remember it. I think it was Lenin, basically talking about what we now call the useful idiots.
Yeah,
these people are all behaving as useful idiots. They're trying to push a narrative that no one is interested in, only themselves. But they are so loud because they are the silent. They are the vocal minority. They're so loud that everyone thinks this is the truth. This is what feminism has done. This is what Black Lives Matter is trying to do. This is what Antifa has been doing since the Second World War, to be honest. We are being told how to live by the the vocal minority. And most people are like, you know what? I'm just going to live my life. And unfortunately, we have come to a point in the Western world once again, because this is not the first time we're here. We have come to a point in the Western world where we once again need to stand up and say, no, this is not okay.
Something about history and not learning and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's a problem also, like, I've learned last like 2 or 3 years that even people I consider smart and they are educated, and then we talk about certain truths, certain things, and then I had someone telling me, yeah, I do believe women are really discriminated, especially in the US, and that wasn't even the wage gap, that was just the opportunity. And this is typical. When I said, okay, so tell me right now, if I'm in the US, what can I do? What can't I do? What you as a man can? What is forbidden to me? It's not because I'm not, educated to it, or I'm not as strong for some jobs, but just purely like, no, you are a woman, fuck you, we don't want you here. What is it? What can't I do? And then there is no conversation. There is just like, there is end of conversation, and we never going back to that. But he doesn't want to think about it either. But I saw him then repeating the same thing, that women are discriminated. Beyond really.
There is a double standard in the Western world at the moment, and we really have a problem addressing that. And it's not about ethnicity, because this is the first mistake a lot of people make. A lot of people seem to think it's about white people versus black people, because this is where the narrative seems to gravitate towards. But why does the narrative gravitate towards this? Because the identitarian politics always pushes it to that narrative. And as long as we allow that to happen, nothing is going to be talked about.
Yep.
Because
Well,
everything
Modwayne,
can
I
be
hate to
dismissed.
do this to you. I hate to do this to you, Modwayne, but my signal's going in and out. I think it's prime time. Everybody's using their phones while we're sitting in traffic, so I'm going to go ahead and boogie.
Okay, mate. I'm sorry to see you go as well, but I hope to see you next week.
Take care,
I
Magnus.
hope so, too. I'll see you later, man.
And
See you guys.
Nice.
let us know how that.
Bye, Magnus.
Oh, damn it! Now I don't know how his slow cooked meal is going to be. Okay, never mind that. No, but the problem, I think, the diversity politics going on, the cultural Marxist, the postmodernist, no matter how you want to call it, it's basically the same thing. The problem with that is that there are definite problems within our society, and they are not based on black versus white, but there are problems within the white communities when we talk about the ethno-state, because I'm no fan of the ethno-state. I really think the ethno-state is part of a problem. But at the same time, if we look at the black communities, the amount of violence and crime within the black communities, that is a problem too.
Is there an
Now-
ethno-state, though?
Sorry?
There isn't such a thing as an ethno-state, though, right?
At the moment, there is not, but there are people advocating for it.
No, okay, just so I'm clear on that.
I don't think that we are going to have an ethno-states in America, mainly because, like 70%, we already know this, about roughly 70% of Americans are whites, and, like 30% are non-whites. So I would think that many white people have a black relative somewhere, or a black friend, or a black person that they know, and there are definitely going to be people who are half black, half white, and you're not going to want your black child to be elsewhere. You're not going to want you're certainly, if you're white, you're certainly not going to want to feel bad for having a black spouse and a black child. You don't want to feel that way. And, or if you're white, but you have a white boyfriend or white child, but you have a black best friend, you wouldn't want your best friend to go away because of their skin color. So I would think that too many white people would be against it.
Well, probably. And in all fairness, I personally am against it. And I've said this many a time before, so I'll repeat myself. I think the line should be drawn based on culture. If you're part of the Western culture, you're welcome. If you're not part of the Western culture, then why the hell are you in the Western culture if this is not where you want to be? If you want to be in, for example, a communistic state or a socialistic state, there are a few out there. They're all failing, but there are a few out there. If you want to be in a Sharia-controlled country, there are a few out there. If you want to be in an ethno-state for black people, because don't forget that most races aren't white or black, they're based on ethnocentricity. And there are black ones that want a black ethno-state. There are white ones that want a white ethno-state. If you want a black ethno-state, go to a majority black country.
Look at the shit show in South Africa, man.
Yeah.
All
I
the
mean,
hatred
there's a
over
white
there.
genocide going on right there.
Browns.
But there's a white genocide going on. There's a white genocide going on in South Africa right now. There was one going on in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
We all ignored it.
Zimbabwe. Why am I not surprised?
Actually, Sargon did bring up Zimbabwe on his This Week in Stupid, one of them.
Yeah. But this is not about skin color. This is not about ethnicity. And I know that people will bring it back to ethnicity because that will fit the identity politic narrative. But by constantly talking about ethnicity, we are not talking about the real problems.
No.
So nothing is going to change. We are being basically, this is divide and conquer. We are being put against each other so that we will not address the real issue.
Oh, definitely. Of course, we're being pitted against each other. You know, like there's a similar situation to this in the States with the Black Panther Party, where like in Hollywood, or at least somewhere in California, where there are people in the Black Panther Party who are treated like celebrities. So yeah, I mean, of course, it's divide and conquer.
Black Panthers is still a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
unfortunately, it is.
Okay. Cool, I guess.
Well, it's kind of funny because at this point in time,
persevered.
I'm almost in favor of the Black Panthers and of there's another organization, I forgot the name, because they are vehemently against Black Lives Matter.
Oh yeah.
Because they fit the wrong identity.
Oh, by the way, Madeline, back to what you were saying earlier, like if you're socialist, there is a socialist country out there, so why not go there? Well, the arguments I hear is that's not real socialism.
Yes,
That's not how socialism works. It's actually like this, you know.
We've seen a few countries in the world that went from socialist to communist and now are starting to move back to plutocracies, not capitalism, but plutocracies, which is also a problem to be. I mean, a capitalistic system is the best system at this point in time. We have no better system. But there is nowhere in this world at this point in time where capitalism is the system. Not even in America, even though a lot of people claim this. But of course, a socialist is going to say, yeah, but those are not real socialistic states because those states are failing. But if we look throughout the history of communism and socialism, all the states that have gone there, all of them have failed.
Oh man, my discussion
with
my uncle.
Into arguments with them, it's still that's not real socialism. And sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Smokers. What did you want to say, mate?
I had an argument with my uncle about communism. Kind of like he had the same ideas I had when I was like 18 or something. And it kind of pissed me off a little bit. Especially since I was reminded of, I don't know, somebody in our group. They had a grandpa or something that said, well, if you think communism is such a good idea, join the thousands of starving people in the gulag and come back and say that shit to me again.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of. I was like, yeah,
I mean, in all fairness,
it's a nice idea to be equal, but are we really equal?
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. We cannot be equal. The worst thing that can happen to a society is the forced equality of people.
I mean, we should have equal rights, but we'll never be equal.
Indeed,
well, we should be equal under the law.
Yes, that's equal rights. We should have equal rights, but we are not the same.
Exactly. Some people are going to be much stronger than others. Some people are going to be weaker than others. Only women could get pregnant.
Stuff like that. If we cannot accept these differences between ourselves, and I'm going to say accept, I'm not going to say tolerate. I hate the word tolerate. There is no bigger stupidity than the word tolerate. We have to accept that there are differences. And if we cannot accept those differences, then we will never be a community. Equality under the law means that we should have the same chances. We should have the same rights.
Yep.
But at the same time, you and I both have the right to go to school. If I fuck up school, that's my school gone. It's my choice. I didn't do school well.
Yep.
If I fuck up my education, and I know there are people who school themselves at home, fair enough. If you don't learn the stuff you need to learn, so let's not put it at school, but let's put it on your ability to learn stuff. If you do not do what you need to do, then that's on you.
Hey, it's Rambling in the chat.
Hey, Rambling, why are you not in here, mate? I thought you would come too.
Yeah, and whenever I think about that, I'm like, you can't expect, forgive the words, but you can't expect a retard to do a job of a very high-functioning CEO, you know?
But yeah, that's
I mean,
the same
maybe they
thing.
could, but then they'd be kind of the exception to the rule.
At the same time, you cannot. Hey, there is ramblings. Hey, dude, where were you? Anyway,
I was fixing my car. Sorry, car issues.
terrible, terrible. Anyway, no, but you're right. I know a guy. Well, an old guy. He's older than I am, and I'm considered an old guy by some people.
Wayne does not know how to use the internet.
Well, fuck you. Anyway, this guy is like, well, now he's 60 years old, and I haven't really met him in the last few years. He is a director of his own company.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
He doesn't. Well, yeah, good for him. He works hard. The people among him, under him, work hard. He makes a good living, etc., etc.
Good for him.
He doesn't have a high school education.
Yeah, that's not what I was getting at.
I've actually got a funny addendum to that. My dad's best friend, who he's grown up with, did not get a high school education, didn't go to college, and he is a millionaire, and my dad is not. And my dad is an engineer, and my dad has a master's degree in engineering.
Yeah, but some people win the lottery. That's okay.
Dude's got his own company or something. I don't know exactly what he does.
Yeah, but no, indeed. I mean, an education doesn't give you 100% chance of success.
No, of course
No,
not.
absolutely not. In fact, in some cases, I would argue, an education can blind you in some ways.
In America, I'm 100% behind you.
Actually, these
Yeah, I
days,
definitely think so too.
Well, it's not even so much just, the fact that American education system is fucked from the ground standing. That's not necessarily what I was getting at. But when you start to put a lot of pieces together, in this case, we'll say when you start to acquire a wealth of knowledge, or at least a general pool that you can draw from, you tend to start overthinking a lot of things that before you had this information, you would just look at very simply and say, oh, I could fix that with, I don't know, duct tape or something, instead of the redneck way of fixing things generally does apply in some cases, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You can be...
duct tape and zip ties. Oh, yeah.
In the Netherlands, we used to say gaffer and pur. Gaffer is basically duct tape, and pur is purschuim. It's a foam that it's a gluable foam. It's a foam and glue all put in one, and when it dries up, it hardens up. It's not load bearing, obviously, but it's strong enough. So yeah, with gaffer and pur, you can make everything.
But the general idea is the more you have, the more you will tend to overthink things, I guess is what I'm getting at. When there can be a very simple solution in front of you.
Oh, dear God, I have that at work all the time.
I understand what
I'm all thinking and thinking and thinking, and my boss will come along and goes, hey, just do it like this. And I was like, I'm stuck on this shit for the last hour.
Exactly.
But I think it's also the way we are taught to think. If, for example, if I look at the old Russian, the USSR way of doing engineering, and I know a lot of people will think it's silly of me saying, but one of the most amazing things I found out was, for example, when the space race was going on. In America, they spent millions upon millions to develop a ballpoint pen that could...
And the Russians used pencils.
Indeed, that could write in zero gravity, because ballpoint pens can't. And the Russians used a pencil.
Yeah, why the fuck would you use a pencil?
But using a pencil never was considered by the Americans.
Yeah.
If we look at the F-16 compared to the, I think it's the MiG-20 or the MiG-22. The F-16 was a highly developed and highly engineered and highly electrical flying jet, and it was one of the super jets, if we wanted to call it that. But the MiG was its counterpart. The difference was, if you hit an F-16 with anything, it could be too much. If there was a lightning storm, an F-16 could actually fall out of the sky because of the EMP. The MiG-20, thank you, John, the MiG-22. Every system had a redundancy system, but it was all, I mean, where the F-16 was mostly electronics, the MiG-22 was still mostly how do you call it? Mechanical. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And it was mechanical with a redundancy. So even if you would shoot part of its wing off, it would still be able to somehow make itself.
Kind of reminds me of Russian tanks, where everybody would be like, "Oh my God, that's such a shitty tank," but bullets would just fly off it because of the shape.
Hell, I think in World War II, the Russians made a habit of digging the tanks are supposed to be mobile turrets, right? But the Russians had a habit of digging their tanks in holes and just using the turret hidden in.
But the Russian tanks in the Second World War were, I think only the French tank was better than the Russian tank.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. Nowadays the Abrams tank, the American Abrams, is the best tank. But
it's the most well known.
Well, yeah, but I think there hasn't been an Abrams tank destroyed yet.
No.
There's been a few things that America's put out that hasn't been destroyed yet.
But the thing is, put one Abraham tank against which is the Russian tank at the moment. T something, I can't remember.
No idea.
But
the T-72, I think, is what it is.
Isn't that the previous one?
It might be. It might be. The T-72 was just the first one to come to mind.
Anyway, the Russian tank is not as strong as the Abraham tanks. Yep. But for the price of one Abraham tank, you put up 15 to 25 Russian tanks. And trust me, that one American tank has no survival chance against 10 Russian tanks.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, it's the T-90.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the T-90. And John, you're correct. Did the French have any tanks in World War II? Yes, they did. The problem is that the French used a very wrong tactic in the beginning of the Second World War. They spread out their tanks. And then when the German Blitzkrieg happened, which was basically forcing a lot of tanks in one small area, there weren't a lot of tanks defending. And the few French tanks that were defending could take out a lot of German tanks, but not nearly all of them.
See, I always thought that the French's biggest issue was they painted their war flag white, and everyone just assumed they surrendered.
Yeah, that's also not true. I like the idea that people always keep talking about how the French lost every war, but no, it's not true.
Of course it's not true.
And yes, they had the Maginot Line, and they depended heavily on the Maginot Line, which was also a strategic mistake. But then again, the French made strategic mistake upon strategic mistake. There is no denying that. But the French tank was stronger than the German tanks at the time. The difference was that the Germans had a tactic of making tanks which is basically the same as what the Russians had. They were able to build tanks pretty fast.
The German tanks at the start were very basic compared to later models, but the Germans also had a very, we'll say it's a counterproductive habit of making things bigger. And the bigger that you make things, the bigger the target it becomes, the harder it becomes to move. And the Germans also made a very bad habit of rushing into Russia and depleting most of their fuel resources before the war even started. So they didn't have the economy, the fuel economy, to support the war that they were trying to go for, and they pissed it all away in the very beginning.
Yeah, well, that's the one. That's the one reason why we were happy Hitler was in charge of the German army. Had Hitler listened to his generals, we would all be speaking German now.
Yeah.
But Davy, the Germans ran through Holland pretty quick. Yes, mate, you're completely correct on that. And there were 3 reasons for that. 1, the Dutch assumed that they wouldn't be part of the Second World War because they weren't part of the First World War as well. Secondly, they thought that the Waterlinie, the water line, would defend the Dutch. And thirdly, they considered themselves, and the Dutch people have always considered themselves, natural allies to the Germans.
And we're not really a big country.
And, well, we're not a big country either, but we never thought we would be at war with Germany. had the Germans gone in and said, you know what, guys, can we work together? They probably would have gotten the same result. Funny thing, though, one of the first things that the German did was they paradropped near the Hague to try and capture the airport near the Hague so that the royal family couldn't leave the country. They thought they would get that. It took them more than 3 days. So the Dutch royal family had plenty of time to get away. They never thought the Dutch would hold out that long.
Yeah, we are resilient bastards.
Well, yeah. But okay, so back to the it's okay to be white thing, because that's where we started. And I'd like to go one further. I'm not going to say it's okay to be white.
What a shitstorm was that?
Okay, sorry, Alicia. Too bad to see you go. Maybe see you next time. Have a good one. But okay, let's go back to the it's okay to be white. Let's stop a little bit earlier. Let's take one word out of it. It's okay to be.
Yep.
And everything that follows be, let's consider that. Is it okay to be black? Is it okay to be gay? Is it okay to be a police officer? Is it okay to be a tram conductor?
No.
Is it okay to be racist? Is it
Yes.
okay to be a pedophile?
Yes.
Well, fair enough. So
we could stretch it a long way, man.
No, we can stretch it all the ways we want to go. But every single one of those things is an individual statement. Yep. Is it okay to be let's go. Is it okay to be a pedophile? I know this is controversial, so let's go there. Is it okay to be a pedophile? I have no problem with a person being pedophilic. I have a problem with him acting on it.
Yep.
So if you in your bedroom are like, yeah, I like little girls or I like little boys, yeah, that's not my issue. As long as you don't touch them.
You know, I actually liked what you say earlier. Like, it's okay to be. You know, like, it's just okay to be, and we don't need to add any extra words to it.
Yeah. I mean, is it okay to break the law? No, it's not okay to break the law.
Well, I mean, that's a moral standing.
Yes.
No, wait. We do have some dumb laws in America. For example, let's just say you're in a ghost town and the light is red in a ghost town. If you run a red light at a ghost town, you are breaking the law.
Yeah, but that's the same in the Netherlands. I mean, if I'm on the highway at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 a.m., there is no living soul on the highway, and still I'm only allowed to drive 100 or 120 kilometers per hour.
Yep.
Why?
Do you?
No, I don't, but I'm only allowed to do that.
Yeah,
most people drive like 130 to 140 anyway.
Let's discuss something that's more, is it okay to break the law? Is it okay? Well, what's the law that we're breaking? Like, is it okay to is it okay to rob a bank? No. Is it okay to beat up women? No. Is it okay to smoke weed? There's your gray area.
Well, fair
and
enough.
More people are punished for the latter than the former.
Yep. That is true too. So these are indeed gray areas. These are things we should confront each other with. I don't think that the law is a stationary thing.
Well, non-criminal drug offenses are fucking bullshit anyway.
To me too, but
well, I'm committing a whole lot of bullshit, but
maybe you should wash your face. Just saying.
Probably.
But seriously though, yes, there are plenty of rules or laws that are redundant. Let's call them redundant.
But then again, you know, the whole ethical. I like the ethical dilemmas when you're starving. Do you steal or not? I mean, you have to survive. So why not?
Yeah, so
you're not allowed to, but you kind of sort of have to. Maybe.
For example, if we look at the how do you call it, Hurricane Katrina bullshit or Hurricane whatever the names were.
Irma.
Yeah, whatever.
That was the latest one, yeah.
And then we see looters going into shops and coming out with televisions.
Televisions? No.
Okay, shoot them dead. I don't care. Those people are thieves. They're lowlifes. Now, would they have come out with a loaf of bread or water? That would have been a different story to me.
Yep.
Because that's survival.
Exactly.
But a television
Okay,
or Nike shoes, I'm sorry, that's not survival. Fuck you, you're a thief. You're
I don't
abusing
know,
the
man.
system.
Depending on the shoes or like clothes, that one kind of depends.
Nobody shut the fuck up.
No,
if Nike are the last shoes in the store, then whatever.
Yeah, exactly. See? What if it is literally the last crap in the store because everyone took all the cheap stuff already? All right.
Then you leave it.
I probably have to get my first.
I will
You
not.
cannot eat shoes. Well, you can, but it's not something I would recommend.
Yeah, you don't necessarily
Right.
need shoes, but
Oh God.
it's a nice.
But yeah, no,
Shoes matter.
Nike shoes matter.
all shoes matter.
All shoes matter. No, but and no, we should never feel sorry for our war enemies, John. I mean, afterwards we can say, okay, we fought the war, we ended the war, but no, I'm not feeling guilty to the people.
Okay, no, I have a better question. Were you a part of Waterloo? Should you feel guilty for something that you had no hand in?
A fair point.
This isn't even a question of my country committed this during a wartime effort. This is a question of did you do anything personally that you should feel guilty for? If the answer is no, then you have no reason to feel guilty for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fair point.
I'm just guilt
But
trip is
no,
cool.
but let's go back. Is it okay to be? Yeah. And
No.
If so, it's not okay to be.
No.
Why not?
Why is it okay to be? What gives me the right to be?
Well,
The fact that you're born gives you the right to be.
yeah.
Tell that to all the aborted children.
But they weren't born.
So they didn't have
Some
the
of
right
them
to
were,
No,
and they were left in dumpsters.
aborted children were not born. And yes, okay, some children were left in dumpsters. To me, those are criminal acts. Arrest the parents, throw them in jail.
But they still have the right to be.
But yeah,
So it's okay to be.
and don't get me wrong. I think we should never hurt or harm our children. On that, I'm quite simple. I mean, if you harm your child is not the problem. Your child has a problem. You are the problem.
No shit.
Understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, if someone says, yeah, but I have the right to commit abortion, yeah, maybe, but let's look at it a bit further. I mean, abortion before the first trimester, yeah, sure. Abortion at the last trimester, no, fuck it. And dumping your baby, I'm sorry, there are so many other ways you can deal with the situation. If that's your solution, you are the problem.
By the way, don't you think, like, when it comes to abortions, if a woman gets an abortion and her boyfriend doesn't know about it, doesn't that go against men's rights?
Yeah,
You
it
know,
does.
like, yeah.
Yeah, it does. And it does go against the right of the unborn baby. I mean, why are you taking an abortion? If you use abortion as a contraceptive, I have a problem.
Yeah, I really hate the argument like women can do with their bodies whatever they want. Yes, and you already did. You had unprotected sex, so you're pregnant. You're aborting the baby. It's not you doing with your body what you want. It's getting rid of the unwanted consequences. And I really hate that. Although I will not say that abortion in the last trimester should be always forbidden. I mean, when I read about babies who, they late discover will be really born with, I don't know, some dreadful sickness that they still will not survive, or they will discover late that you might really die, that there is a huge risk to you. You still should be able to choose. It's a terrible choice either way, but you still should be able to choose.
I think my stance on that.
Yeah, it's just that though, I do care about the men's rights issues part of it as well, because men feel really bad about it. Like, men would be crying because the girl had an abortion, and then a bunch of families would tell him to shut up, like after crying and after going through that traumatic experience of, the woman going to abortion, it's just insults after insults. It is telling that he's a terrible human being and awful. I mean, this was Tumblr. I'm not gonna lie, I was at Tumblr seeing this, but still, it was it was really vicious.
And there's a serious problem with that. I mean, I'm not going to tell people you're not allowed to have an abortion. I am going to tell people that there is a reason you should not have an abortion as a contraceptive. And if you are, I mean, yes, the father should know. And the father should have a say in this too, in my humble opinion.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Don't you think that I want to say father should know and should have a say. And I would say, look, you go into a relationship and talk about, do you want to have kids? And do you think you can have a kids now or in the next 5 years? But where is the line? Like, let's say, and this is just hypothetical. Let's say I'm pregnant and I don't want to have a baby, so I want to have an abortion. So you said no. Okay. But now let's say I am pregnant and I really, really, really might die, and the doctors know it's very dangerous for you. And then, should you have a say then? Yeah, anyone? As a man, should you have a say then? And I don't like, because I don't want to take like the most pathetic, the most poor example, because those are like half of the percent. It's just curious.
Yeah, but
where does the line?
There's a difference with crime and not crime. That's the first line. So if a woman is pregnant because of a crime, okay, different situation. But if it's not crime, then yes, the woman has no more rights than the man.
No, I didn't say the crime.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for example, let's say there is really a huge risk I'm going to die, and doctor said, you know what, we discovered it's fucked up.
I think what she's asking is if she's going to die. If she's going to die because of the pregnancy, giving birth, you would either have to abort it, or she would either save the child or save her. I think what she's asking is, should the man have a say in whether you save her or save the child? I think is what she's asking.
I still think the man should have a say. Don't get me wrong. But there is no doctor out there that would not try to save the woman nowadays. Yep. 50 years ago, they would have gone for the child. Nowadays, they go for the woman.
Yeah, people go for the woman nowadays because women can always have more children.
Yeah.
If you're a woman, you can always have another child. But if you're a child and you grow up without a mother, I think it's best to grow up with only one parent.
The problem is you cannot always have another child, because this is one of the things a lot of people don't understand when it comes about abortion. There is a chance that when you abort a child, you cannot become pregnant again.
Yeah. Dude, it's like you read my mind, because I was just about to ask that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
wait. I do know a girl who had 3 abortions. So I'm not sure if I believe that if you have an abortion, you can't get pregnant again.
There is a chance.
No, there's a chance. It's not a guarantee. There's a chance. It's not a guarantee.
There is a risk you cannot have a children anymore. And some women are able to have a children, but some women are unlucky and it's enough to have one abortion and they cannot get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, the woman might not even have the ability to create a child to begin with, like my mom. So she had to adopt.
Yeah. Which is also a good way of dealing with unwanted children. Fuck it. Sometimes people live in terrible situations and they cannot take care of their kid. Don't abort it. Give it up for adoption. That way you have still the ability to create life, and your child still has the option of a good life ahead of them.
Okay, but here is the problem that does get annoying. It's like when a kid is fully adopted, then the mother's like, well, I want the child back. And then it's devastating to the adopted family because they get to know the child, they bond with the child grows close to them. Then the mother's like, well, I want it back now.
As
Yeah,
an
well,
adopted child, I do not think that my legal mother has any potential chance to, like, as adopted child, I don't think my mother had any chance to come and say, I want my child back. When you give the child up, it's game over.
yeah, indeed.
No
Once
legal
you give it
custody,
up,
no
that's
legal
done.
right to come back and claim the child later. You fucked up. If you gave up your child and you want it back later, that's on you. That's nothing. You can't do anything about that. There is no way for you to. No, that can't happen. No. And at that point, what you would be doing if you did try to reestablish connection with your child is I think they can press criminal charges on you. And you
They
could also
could.
cause distress for the child.
Depending on how it goes, though, because I have no problem with a child then learning who their natural parents
No,
are.
and my parents have also offered to introduce me to my biological parents. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you should not have that right. But what I'm saying is if the mother comes back and shows up at the adopted parent's house and is like, I want my kid back, and proceeds to try to take the kid or do anything like that, she has no legal standing to do that. She'll go to jail. That's kidnapping. She has no rights to the child as far as the state
indeed.
and the country's concerned. She's not the parent. Doesn't matter. Hell, on my birth certificate, my adopted parents are the ones on my birth certificate.
Yeah. and this is, to me, how it should be. And yes, you should tell your child, well, I'm not 100% sure, but I think you should tell your child that it's adopted.
I disagree with that.
At an age where that child can handle this information, and you should bring it carefully, because there are reasons why you should know that you're adopted. There are reasons why you should know this, because certain genetical illnesses can come in your family and not in you, or vice versa. It is prudent to be aware of this. But
it absolutely is. But you should also, if you're adopted, I think you get records of your parents, the adopted child's medical history.
The adoption parents should get them, yes.
Yeah, because my parents do have those.
Yes, they should get them. And therefore, this is information that eventually you should have too. But I don't think, and this is why adoption is a delicate matter. If you adopt a child, you should never tell your child, well, you're adopted, so you have to, be grateful to us. No. He's still your child, or she's still your child. You should behave as you would with any other child. But at the same time, your child needs to be aware, not when he's 6 or 5 or whatever, but when he's 18, 21, he should be aware that, you know what, we might not be your biological parents. We're your parents, but we might not be your biological parents.
You know what? That reminds me about a program I watched long time ago when I still was in Poland, and there was a family, and back then it was controversial. Basically, there was mother and father, and the woman had 1 or 2 children of her own. I think 1. And then they wanted to have more kids, but the woman was like, no, the pregnancy, it's not going to happen. I don't want it. But they said, like, we are really wealthy and we have a chance to adopt, and why not? So they ended up like with 4 or 5 children, and I think 2 of them was of their own, and the 2 or 3 was adopted. And those are still kids at few years, and they actually chose to tell all of them that those kids are adopted, but they treat it as a kids. And I remember she's saying, like, it's sometimes difficult and sometimes it's hilarious because, well, my one son is telling, well, I'm the real son of my mother. She gave a birth to me. And the other one goes like, yeah, she had to have you and she chose me. So, they're like 5 or 6 years old, so rats. But at the same time, I think, like, when you're 20 and then you all of a sudden discover this, maybe that's heavier. Maybe that's more difficult.
As speaking as someone who's known, my mom made the mistake of basically telling me when I was 3. So I've known my entire life, as far back as I can remember, that I was adopted. And that is one of the things that I can say to everyone, and I have said that to a lot of people who used to make fun of me for it, was my parents chose me, your parents were stuck with you. That's a pretty common thing that you use a lot of.
Yeah.
But I can definitely say, you know, being from the one who's known his entire life, I can definitely say that telling someone, especially a child that you don't necessarily have the best relationship with growing up, you know, hey, you might be adopted at a later age, that's like sweeping their entire world out from under them.
Yeah,
that's
but that's not what I mean, if you tell your child that she's adopted, you do so with the best interest for your child.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No, absolutely no doubt. I do not deny that. But what was saying earlier was if you tell a child, just like drop it on them without, you know, them knowing it all, it can be a very disorienting way of approaching the situation, especially if you just like up on like their 18th birthday or their 21st birthday, something, say, hey, we need to talk. We might not actually be your real parents. And this entire thing that you've grown up knowing your entire life might not actually be true. And that time that you may or may not have gotten your tonsils removed and we still have ours might be because your actual parents have a history of tonsil problems and we don't. Yeah. So it's a very delicate situation.
Oh, but it is
delicate. I can see why your parents would tell you while you're still young. That's the way you can adjust. You can be like, my parents chose me, because when you're dealing with a child, I think it's easier because you could just I chose you, like I just saw you and you were something I must have. Well, at 18, it's kind of like, oh, great. Like, why did you lie to me for so long?
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what my mom's told me my entire life, was that she's always wanted me and she got to choose me, whereas everyone else in her side of the family, they're all accidental pregnancies. I'm not even kidding. That's literally the biggest thing that my parents will tell me, is I'm the only child on this side of the family that was chosen out of every other one.
But in all fairness, isn't that true for normal pregnancies as well? I mean, on average, people get pregnant. I mean, even if they want to get pregnant, they still you cannot.
Yeah. But the idea is that none of them on that side of the family wanted to get pregnant. They all wound up with accidental pregnancies and got married to the person who got them pregnant.
How the hell is it accidental, though? I mean, you know you're fucking without condoms, right? Like, what the fuck are you thinking? I'm not ready for a baby.
Break.
But
there are people who were having sex with condoms, and condoms do break.
Yeah, you can check that. I mean, I've never had a condom break on me without me knowing it.
Yeah, because you're like, holy shit, this feels good all of a sudden.
No, because that's not how condoms usually break. But after sex, you check your condom. You always check your condom before you tie it up and throw it away.
Yep.
And then if accidentally you notice this condom was broken, hey, you know what? Tomorrow we're going to the pharmacy, fuck it, and we get a morning after pill.
You mean the apothecary?
Yeah, that one. For fuck's sake.
And she's like, no way, dude, you're driving a good car. The house is huge, I'm staying.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, at that point, you can
We're having this baby.
Yeah, well.
I will lock you in the cellar to get it.
So, but yeah. Anyway, guys, the whole idea was that it is okay to be part. We've been there. We've been over a lot of different subjects.
It's okay to be white. It's okay to be racist. It's okay to be adopted and make fun of other people for it. We've covered a whole range of things it's okay to be.
I'm even going to say it is okay to be a racist. I don't care if you're a racist, as long as you shut the fuck up about it and I don't have to know it.
Yeah, I don't care if someone is a racist.
Shut up about it, as long as you're not violent towards other people.
Yeah.
It's okay to be anything as long as you don't act on the negative connotations.
Okay. Is there a sports team that you really like? Nobody.
Me?
Yeah. Are you a fan of a sports team?
The Steelers.
The what?
The football team, Steelers, Pittsburgh. Named after the Steel City. Steel industry.
You mean those idiots that can't win a game even if they flatten their own balls?
You mean those? That's not necessarily the case. They're the team with the most Super Bowl wins in the entire league, in the entire country.
Super Bowl wins, yes, but matches won, no. But the whole Super Bowl thing is bullshit because the winner of the Super Bowl team doesn't actually have to have the best team to win. You only have to win a best out of 10 or 15, and you can be beaten by everyone else. But if you somehow end up between the best of two, you suddenly are the best one.
Isn't that all sports competitions, though?
No, because if we look at normal competitions, like the soccer competitions in Europe, you have to win a certain amount of points based on the whole season. I mean, in all fairness, if we're going to see if, for example, let's take the Netherlands, and we're going to say, okay, who's going to be the champion, the winners of the Dutch soccer competition, and it's going to be a complete matchup between Ajax and, let's say, Sparta. The rest of you might not know what I'm talking about, but Ajax is top of the competition, Sparta is bottom of the competition.
They're Jews. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
So eventually, if that's the way you're going to decide who's the best, some teams will always rise to be the best. If you're going to tell people, okay, you know what? You're going to have a competition. You're going to play against every team at least 2 times. And then in the end, we're going to measure up how many wins, how many losses, how many ties. And based on that, you're going to win. The Steelers would have no chance.
Mm-hmm. And what makes you say that?
Because reasons.
Because what reasons?
Obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons? I don't really see many obvious reasons.
No, I'm just being nasty about it. But
I know.
the thing is, whether you like something or not can be a reason for someone else to disregard you.
Absolutely.
This is bullshit. So whether you're a racist, I don't care. If you don't like black people, fair enough. Don't like black people. Doesn't mean I agree with you.
Or if you don't like white people.
Or if you don't like white people, doesn't mean I agree with you. But as soon as you start acting out on it, it becomes a problem. Hi there, Mercuro.
Yep, now we have a problem.
As soon as you start acting out on your racism, we have a problem. And the problem is not that you don't like black people. No, the problem is that you act out on it. The problem is not that you feel that you should punch a Nazi. The problem is that you actually punch a Nazi or actually punch people you consider being Nazis. Because when you say, well, I think it's a good idea to punch Nazis, I still think you're an idiot. But hey, listen, you have the right to think whatever you want. But as soon as you start actually punching people, you're breaking the law.
Oh, that was another major point of disagreement with me and my uncle.
Yeah.
I was like, fucking let the Nazis be Nazis. As long as they don't act on it, it's fine. He's like, and I'm like, hey, I'm on Voltaire with this one. I might not agree with them, and I'm not sure that I'd be the one fighting to defend them, but let other people do that.
No, but yeah, I mean, you have the right
to be the cheerleader. Like, go.
Marcus, if everyone has the same attitude that you did, nothing would get done.
I know.
And everyone would have their liberties taken away because no one would defend them.
True.
Maybe.
Well,
Maybe
no,
not.
he literally just said that I'm probably not going to be the one to defend their rights, but they should be able to do as they want. Well,
No. I said,
if you're not going to defend them.
I'm not fighting. Fuck that. I value my life.
Well,
If you're not going to defend them and no one else is going to defend them, who's going to defend them?
Hey, let them fucking just have their beliefs. Jesus Christ.
But their beliefs are wrong.
Yeah, but as long as they don't act.
Yeah, but that's the point. As long as they don't act out on it, as soon as they start acting out on it, we have a problem.
We have a big problem.
Yeah, exactly.
said they get flung off the bike. Just
but I'm not really a fighter, so that's why I say that.
There was a great invention for people who aren't fighters. They call it a gun.
Oh, I know, right?
You squeeze the trigger and suddenly everyone goes away.
Anyway, guys, we've been at it for almost 2 hours, and this is my magical market moment. We know this of me. So we're going to slightly call it an end. First off, I'm going to thank everyone in the chat now here and has been here. Like Alicia is gone now, but I still like that she came. David, Mercuro, first time that I saw you in the chat. Welcome. Hi there. Nice. Like it. John, thank you for coming. Sicko, thank you for coming. Davey, Carlos.
Sicko.
I love that you guys were here. I mean, I have to admit, I wasn't sure how many people would show up, considering the fact that it has been a while since the last time. So,
oh my God, we haven't done this in forever.
Yeah, so
really
I saw it on my phone and I was like, oh my God, I need to get there.
I was really thinking like, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to start again. And no one will be here this time, but then at least next time people know we're back again. But yeah, no problem. Everyone came. I'm really, really happy about that. Loved it that Carlos Castreo came. I loved it that Magnus came. I loved it that you came, Rin, and Smirkus, and nobody, even though nobody was the one who said he would come and he came as last.
I am sorry. I wanted to be here.
Yes, you are one sorry piece of... But it was nice. It was fun of you to come, mate. I really loved it. You know, I like it when you're here, right? You know, I rip on you. It's just
because I bring this magical air to the stream that makes everything completely go off the rails.
And I love it too. I mean, you haven't spoken a lot this time, Rin, but I love it that you came once again. So I'm going to give everyone a chance. I'm going to give everyone a chance to say what they want to say, and then we're going to call it.
Are you trying to take my place as the most silent one?
Okay, who wants to be the first to give a few words of wisdom?
You're all cunts.
Well, if we're looking for words of wisdom, I can think of 3.
1, 2, and 3?
No, let it be.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
I have made quite a few videos recently. I made a video on centrism, and I have a new video coming out tomorrow about, a conversation I had with a person who's like a socialist, but we were arguing about like racist humor. And so I tried to describe this person's views accurately, like it was sort of punish video. I was explaining the other person's points of view, then I explained my own points of view, if you guys are interested in watching. And I am Ran Mikhailis, and it is Ran with, Michael, and then an IS at the end.
I will try to keep an eye on this. I will try to put the links to the people's channels in the subscription. Usually I should. I know I haven't always done that, but I will try to remember it.
In the down there.
In the down there.
In the down there areas.
But yeah, no, go check out Rin Mikhailis' stuff. I'm amazed of some of the stuff you're making, Rin. It's really you make some good points.
Oh, did you like my video on centrism?
I haven't seen the centrism one. I have to admit that the last one I've seen is quite a bit away. Now my memory is failing me miserably, unfortunately.
Because you're old.
Unfortunately, I have to admit that is true. Let me see. What was the last one that I...
Age is just a number, and prison is just a room.
Yep.
What the fuck?
I had to say this for only saw the exact same joke years ago. I had to say that though.
You're too young to be tired. Yeah, you're too old to live, Margaret, but here we are.
I haven't seen any of your hangouts, by the way. Actually,
Mine? talking about me? Or
Yeah. No, yours, Rin. I think the last one I saw was how was it called? I'm a Shill, which is quite a bit away. It's like a month ago now. The last one I've seen of you was a month ago.
I'm a Shill. Did you know that I had a person from the alt-rights on my channel?
I saw that you did, but I haven't seen
You had
it.
Richard Spencer on your channel?
Well,
No.
she had Chrisiosity on her channel, and in all fairness,
There's no real difference. Look, anyone who can tolerate talking with Chrisiosity for more than about 15 minutes has my undying respect.
I couldn't get through the thing with Modwayne because her voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Grating my goddamn ears.
I could not get 15 minutes into that thing for Modwayne without. Oh my god, just no. No Chrisiosity, please no.
It's not really the conversation or anything, but it's just her voice, man. Holy crap.
It's her as a person that bothers me. Everything that I see her in, it's all cringeworthy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I overestimated the ability to talk with her. I really had hoped it would be a good talk.
You know, Modwayne,
kind of
no one
like
can.
you were baiting her. a lot.
Modwayne, no one can fault you for assuming that she had a brain somewhere in that mass of hair.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we do kind of come standard with it. It's factory installed on most humans, but I mean, aftermarket parts do exist.
yeah, apparently.
Feminism is one of the things that you have to.
I'm really sorry that you guys didn't hear the pre-stream talk I had with Chrisiosity, because she wanted to make a few agreements on subjects we wouldn't touch and some of the things we wouldn't do. We wouldn't just say, yeah, but I don't believe you. And whenever someone else said something, the other one wouldn't just go, yeah, but I don't believe you, which I agreed to. I'm like, okay, fair enough. I mean, if I disagree with you, I'm going to ask you for, I didn't know this, but I won't say I won't believe you. And then guess what happened during the speech?
She said she didn't believe you.
It's even funny because one of the main topics we were talking about was the difference between male and female brains. And then she's like, no, there is no difference. And then she starts naming 3 things that are different.
Yeah.
Aren't you
And
a
I'm like,
psychiatrist?
No, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a social therapist.
Yeah, whatever. You
Hey,
deal with
that's-
people with brain issues.
But that's a pay grade lower. So-
The pay grade only matters to the one who's making the money, not necessarily me.
Well, it matters to me, and I'm not making the money. No, but it's kind of funny that she was like, yeah, but this is wrong. And there were a few subjects where I gave certain examples, and then basically she said, no, that's not true. And then after that came with arguments, which basically proved what I just said. And she did that a few times, and the disingenuousness was difficult for me to break through. Anyway, that's unfair of me because that says something about Chrisiosity, not about Rin. And Rin considers Chrisiosity someone she prefers or she likes to talk to, so I shouldn't attack Chrisiosity too much.
Well, that's cool.
I am going to put down a link to Rin's channel, people, so you can check out her stuff. And I will put down a link to Smirkus's channel.
What?
Which channel do you want me to put it?
What? Just this one? Smirkus?
Yeah. And I will, of course, do that with Magnus and Carlos.
Like no content. Why would you put
And
it down there?
Well, you don't have the content anymore.
He forgets the nobody. Nobody's always last.
Well, usually you are first with the statements.
I know. That's the point.
I thought you still had videos up on your channel. Did you remove them all?
No, but I don't really make content. I just come here and talk.
Okay, but you did make content. Content.
Yeah, I have a couple videos.
Okay.
And that's not really. I have real problems with formulating my thoughts into videos most of the time, so I don't bother.
Yes. Well, I will link everyone's channel in the thingy and
And the thingy.
this is
This has
Rin's.
been a great thingy.
I just linked Rin's video archive, so to speak.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming out to the thingy. It was a real great thingy, and I hope that you enjoyed the thingy, and we'll catch you on the thing next time. right?
Yeah,
Something like
thingamajig.
that.
Hi there, Marcel Talen. Good joke. Thank you for coming. We're going to go offline. Thank you all for coming. Thingy. I know. I'm sorry. But thank you all for coming, and time to go. Bye-bye.
See you on the next thing.
Bye
Take care,
bye.
everyone.
Bye everyone.
Bye bye.